All right, put on your awkward-looking headgear and get out your rollerblades, your ice skates, your surfboards, your hockey sticks, your skateboards, your VHS copy of X Games you recorded off of the TV in 1994. This is Filmshake, the 90s movies podcast, and I'm Jordan.
This is Nick.
And today it's episode 41, and it's another patron pick, this time from Charlie, your brother, Nick. He's requested 1993's Airborne.
And God bless him for that.
God bless America and God bless Charlie Loop. I want to get into yours and Charlie's history with this movie, but first, we have to visit the Fallen Warrior realm. Nick, you lost trivia last time, and what did I punish you with? Or, quote-unquote, bless you with?
Let me just tell you, this is like the most extreme Filmshake episode yet. It's all about extreme sports of the 90s and the late 80s in the case of the Punishment movie. And you know what, man? I took my Nexium this morning. I even took a Tagamet, and I still have such bad heartburn. So how much more perfect can you get being so extreme and wild with these movies and when they came out? And now I'm 40 and I'm sitting in this coat closet with acid reflux just pouring into my mouth right now, man. So
that's extreme for you, man. Living the hard life. Doing the vert ramp in your closet.
That's right.
Just like Yabo. All right.
Oh, Yabo. I can't wait to get into Yabo. Yes. So yes. You had me watch Gleaming the Cube. That's a 1989 film directed by Graham Clifford, written by Michael Tolkin, not like J.R.R. Tolkien. Tolkien, Tolkin. I love the description of genre for this movie. Whoever edited this Wikipedia page, it wasn't me. I didn't do this one. You know, I do a lot of Wikipedia editing. I didn't for this. It's a 1989 American neo-noir film. Would you call this a neo-noir film? Because I'm not thinking that.
I like the description of it as a skateboarding murder mystery, but where else can you get a skateboarding? I mean, I gave you a blessing, my friend. This is a blessing disguised as a curse, because this is a 5-star movie, my friend. Where else can you get skateboarding and a murder mystery involving a Vietnamese video store owner / gun runner who is gun running through a medical supplies warehouse? Where else do you get that? Nowhere but Gleaming the Cube.
Only here. That's right.
Only here.
Yes, and you get probably the most waifish Christian Slater I've ever seen. He looks like a stiff breeze would blow him off his skateboard here. He's a little bitty guy in this movie.
Hey, don't say anything bad about our Slatester here. 5 stars for Christian Slater's hair. 5 stars for all the band shirts he wears. 5 stars for skateboarding under an 18-wheeler in the freaking interstate. 5 stars for Tony Hawk's Pizza Hut truck, and 5 stars for all the stunt skaters pretending to be Slater doing some sick tricks, because Slater apparently, you know, he had prepped 6 months for this movie to learn how to skateboard, but he said he never did learn how to ollie, and I won't fault him for that, because those old school, like Nash, those giant Nash skateboards back in the 80s were ridiculously like super clunky and super heavy. So I don't know how all these guys are doing anything on those boards, because I remember having one as a kid and it weighed like 5 tons. So he never learned how to ollie, but that's all right. He's still got the sick hair.
Man, what you just said reminded me of something my dad told me when I was a kid and I was watching some kind of skateboarding thing. He said, you know, back in my day, whenever we had a skateboard, one kid had one, and you were incredible if you could just get her across the parking lot. That's how hard it was to skate on those old skateboards. So I believe you. You know, if a late 60s / mid 60s skateboard was like that, then I don't think the late 80s one had progressed as much. I mean, what is it like now? It just does all the work for you, right? You just push the ollie button on it, right?
Right, basically. Well, yeah, nobody's skateboarding anymore. It's just video game, you know. It's just you press the button and it does it for you, and you're in virtual reality world or something. But I guess there's still skaters out there, but it definitely seems like a fad or a trend that has died with the 90s. And like I've reminisced before on the show, I was a skater in the late 90s, hated rollerbladers, as we'll get into as we go into the main episode. But yeah, I was a skater through and through. the early teenage years. And yeah, we didn't have the giant Nash boards. You had like a lot skinnier deck where you could actually do flip tricks and stuff, because those giant boards they're using here in 89, I mean, like I said, you're lucky if you can get down the street with those, let alone doing all like the vert tricks and, you know, grind tricks and stuff they're doing in here. So yeah, grew up with Gleaming the Cube, big fan, obviously a big fan of Slater, but I'm just curious. Yeah. What did you think of this movie? In the extremities.
I thought it was okay, man. I thought it was all right.
Yeah.
It was a fun movie. I don't think it's a great movie by any terms, but I mean, it's very enjoyable. Like you said, it's a skateboarding murder mystery, and they do an okay job with some of the emotional beats here, because Slater's adopted brother is the one who's murdered, and it hits him hard because his adopted brother was kind of the perfect one, and he always felt like the adopted brother was the son that his parents actually always wanted, instead of him, who's kind of this punk rebel that is misunderstood. So you do have some cool emotional beats there, but I don't know, man. Like, just overall, again, I enjoyed it. It's a lot of goofy fun. I don't feel like the filmmaking is like, the skateboarding, there could have been like more artistry to how a lot of it was filmed, which I have a lot of. I'm not going to get into Airborne yet, but you know, like, just as a technician, I don't really know what else Graham Clifford has done. You know, I guess I could have done better punishment research, but I don't know if he really had like a lot of experience filming action and like lots of movement, because I felt like the way that they shot the skateboarding stuff could have been better. Like there's a big chase scene here where Slatester finally gets to the bottom of things, and then he gets all the skaters to help him out, and I thought we were going to kind of get a balls out action scene, and it's kind of more like, how do I describe this? I don't know, like, I always think about the movie Gone in 60 Seconds, how if you watch the trailer, it looks like it's going to be balls out car chases, but you don't get like a lot of great footage of the cars driving. There's like a lot of footage of people talking in the cars. I don't know. I felt like that stuff could have been better, but the vibe of the movie is pretty close to perfect. It's just a very fun, unique, late 80s skater vibe for sure. I did enjoy that a lot. It's a 3 out of 5 for me.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I can totally see that. Like, it's like you said, it's not like a super well-made movie by any means. You know, some of the emotional beats I think are a little hammy or a little cheesy, and I don't know. Yeah, there's just some technical stuff that's not great. Like, I feel like most of those problems that you're having with the filming of the skating is half the time they're having to film around like stuntmen who are pretending to be Slater, so they're having to film like the back of his head or his feet, you know, to just so you're not aware that it's not him, you know, doing those sick tricks or flying under the 18-wheeler or whatever. But yeah, I think that might have kind of limited them a little bit. I can't remember, but does Shane McDermott in Airborne have a stand-in, or does it seem like seemed like they did a better job with him of like it actually seeming like he was the one rollerblading and doing some of the tricks and stuff, but I could be wrong about that too.
So, not to skip to the next movie, but he was a world-class athlete. He was like a national award-winning, not national, an internationally ranked gymnast before he did Airborne. So he was an athlete. He could do some stuff. I'm sure they had an awesome stunt team doing some of his work, but I think he was probably naturally good at that, twisting his body in the air and such.
Right.
Hey, Slatester also, he's a little raw in this too. He's still perfecting his art, which I can respect, because we all know what came after this was just like a full decade of awesome, right? This is the last year before the 90s where he hit peak Slatester.
You can definitely see the Nicholson poking through here, where like he basically said himself, like he was just kind of trying to ape Nicholson in those early days, where he has the, you know, like very, I don't know, Nicholson voice and face and tone and attitude and everything. I do want to ask you, do you feel like you know what Gleaming the Cube means now? Has it been revealed to you after watching this movie?
Man,
have you gleamed the cube?
There was this time, senior year of high school, with maybe 2 months left, where I was really sleep deprived, and I put on Akira, and it was the first time I watched it. And you and I went to see the re-released last year in the theater, the 4K.
Yeah.
Was it 4K? And it was incredible. But
yeah, it was awesome.
But this was the first time I watched it, and I was very groggy, And I just remember thinking, like, this makes so much sense. Like, the last 30 minutes of the movie, like, this is like life. This is everything. Like, this isn't just Akira. Like, this is everything. This is all things. At the end of this movie, I understand everything. I understand the meaning of life. I get it all. And then I woke up, like, I fell asleep right after the movie was over, and I was like, what just happened? And that's how I feel about Gleaming the Cube as a definition. Like, when I watched the movie, I thought, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And I can't remember. I'm not sure if it even happened.
Yeah. Does that movie exist? Did they ever address Gleaming the Cube? No, but because at one point, Yabo, his buddy, says, it's like that place you go when you skate, man. Which means nothing. Like, I still don't know what Gleaming the Cube means, like, 30 years later or whatever. I really think some studio exec was just like, oh, yeah, we need, like, a cool skateboarder sounding term for this movie's title. Gleaming the Cube. The cube's where you go to skate. No, I think it's just jargon. It's just trash. But, not a perfect movie by any means. I don't really give this 5 stars. I just thought that was a fun little gag to go with, but it is a fun movie. I think it'll always be dear to me, and of course it's got the Slatester and Tony Hawk and all these early 90s late 80s skateboarders that I love. So
what's your score?
I don't know, it's really going to be hard to
a Slatester
rate
out
this,
of 5.
like, unbiased. Yeah, it's a Slatester out of 5. That's what it is. 6 out of 5. Best movie ever.
Hey, you know what? It also has a character named after our favorite slang for a female anatomy part, Yabo.
Is that a slang for a female?
Hey, remember from She's All That? I guess we only discussed that in a bonus episode, but when he says check out the Yabos on Super Freak.
No,
remember that?
The Bobos. He says check out the Bobos.
Oh, I'll cut this out then. I'll cut this out.
No, we need this. We need this. This is gold right here.
This is integral.
Check out the Yabos. Is that another term that I'm not aware of?
If I'm going to Urban Dictionary Yabos right now while we're talking. Yabos, hooters, breasts, boobs, tits, knockers.
Okay, gotcha. All right, well, Bobos and Yabos are the same thing then, so we've cleared that up. I think we can move on.
All respect to Yabos and Bobos and those who have them.
And respect to Urban Dictionary, because I've got some love for them coming later when we get into Airborne slang.
Right on. And I'm guessing that will be coming as we're talking about our main film, 1993's Airborne. I said coming.
Have we just derailed since Batman Returns, or just turned into the trash podcast?
Everything we talk about either involves junior high sexual discussions or scatological data.
That's right. Because I don't know what episode it was, but my daughter was visiting my mother-in-law, who's a patron of the show. Thank you, Miss Tanya. But she decided to listen to some of the podcasts at some point. She came home and she was like, Daddy, I heard your podcast and you said boobies. Like, why are you talking about boobies? Like, oh, no, honey. Don't listen to the show. It's not kid friendly.
It's not friendly to anyone.
Except for our 11 patrons. But yes, thank you all.
Yes.
Anyway, getting into Airborne, 1993. Thank you, Charlie, for picking this movie, because I had never seen Airborne. I think at some point I had vowed never to watch any other rollerblader movie after having to sit through Brink coming on the Disney Channel like every day after school. And it's like, all right, nothing's on, and Brink's on again. Oh, my God. Did you ever see Brink? Was it called Brink? The kid with the blonde hair on
Jordan,
Disney Channel?
This is where me having 5 years on you is like the luckiest thing ever. It really comes to play with Airborne and Brink, because the first times Charlie and I watched Airborne was on the Disney Channel. And Jordan, Brink is from 1998, Airborne 1993. Like, how crappy did Disney Channel showing roller skating movies get in those 5 years? How did that happen?
Right. It just derailed. Like, come on. Airborne was coming on 5 years before that, and then you give me that trash. I mean, it could be a great movie. I don't know. I was pretty biased at that point, and I was trying to fight through my bias of rollerbladers, being just like this cool kid skateboarder. Even now, just some of that bias lingering from the early and late 90s. So I'm working through it. What do you think Charlie's experience with this movie is? What is your experience like, brothers growing up? Did y'all love this? Was it a favorite? Did you watch it all the time or what?
Man, so what I'm hopefully picking up on here is that you enjoyed watching this, which is good because Charlie and I don't know what was going on. It must have been we were just home after school, like we had gotten off the bus or something, or maybe it was later after we did our homework. But we put it on the Disney Channel, and there was these guys standing on a hill with helmets and rollerblades on, and all of a sudden someone said go, and then they raced, and it was like 20 straight minutes of pure, incredibly shot skating action. And I went with you to the skate park to watch you skate a few times. I can't skateboard. I tried it 2 or 3 times, and I just fell on my butt. It was horrible. It was embarrassing. I could not skateboard, but I could rollerblade. I was a great rollerblader. I got really obsessed with hockey, which is not a good sport to get obsessed with when you live in South Louisiana. There is no ice here. And, right. I grew up in a rural area, so there's only gravel. Like, I didn't even really have sidewalk. So
rollerblading on gravel.
That's right. So I had, like, beast mode calves all the time from having to do that.
Right.
I played street hockey in my gravel driveway all the time. It was awesome. So anyway, this we saw this action scene, and it was incredible. It was so good. And then they showed the movie, I don't know, 5 or 6 more times over the next 2 or 3 months. And we finally watched the whole thing. And we just enjoyed it so much. And every time we watched it, it was like, it never diminished for us. It was like, that movie was pretty good. And then they stopped showing it. And I don't know, it's been like over 25 years probably since the last time that I'm going to guess he's watched it either. But it's like been like a legend in our minds. Like, remember Airborne? Like, did that really happen? Was that really a movie? Because it's not something you hear people talk about. It was a very small film that had like a $2.5 million budget, and it barely made that back. But
right.
It's just one of those moments in time where you watched a movie a lot for a short period and didn't really hear a lot of people talk about it. And then it's like, did that really happen? Or did we just dream this together? But it's real, Jordan. And now we're doing a podcast episode about it. Airborne exists.
I feel like that's how I went with Gleaming the Cube too, where it was just like this small window of time, small amount of people that knew about it, that I was friends with, just all the skaters were into it, but it didn't seem like anybody else was aware of it and, was just really into it for a few years and then just didn't watch it for, 20, 30 years or whatever. So I'm glad that we're having like a little parallel experience with Gleaming the Cube and Airborne here, just going extreme. But yeah, Airborne, I'm so glad that we did pick this and I finally got to see it because, first off, just diving into the plot by plot, we get these credits as we do with 90s movies, just flying at you in the bright colors with the laser sounds. For some reason in my notes, I put brain colors with laser sounds, but I kind of like that better. Let's just go with that. Flying at you with brain colors and laser sounds.
So my first note is, because I knew that you would enjoy that, is, did you enjoy both the Icon Productions logo exploding as well as the movie title exploding? Brah.
Right. Brah. Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, I did. I also enjoyed the commando style, like getting ready montage of them putting on their skates at the beginning. Like It's dark, moody, shadowed lighting where they're just like in the semi-dusk, like, we're putting on our skates, brah, like looking real serious. And then they go outside and it's like, sunny day in California.
Man, the director for this film, he only made 4 films, Rob Bowman. I'm a big fan of 3 out of the 4, and the 4th one I've heard is lousy, but I haven't seen. And those movies are this, and then he did the X-Files movie, and then he did Reign of Fire, which is so ridiculous, but a lot of fun. And then he did Elektra, which I heard was lousy. But the reason that I know him mostly is from X-Files, because he directed 30 episodes And he was just a great technician. Like, you always knew, like, because I'm a huge X-Files nerd, I'd be looking at the writer and directors of upcoming episodes. And if you knew that Rob Bowman was going to direct an episode, it was like, it's going to look really good. And that's how I felt as soon as this movie started watching it now, is like, this is shot well, this is lit well, this looks good. Like, the sense of motion when they're skating and the camera movements looks great. And then there's a shot of them jumping off wearing rollerblades, and they both jump in the air, and then there's a cut as each of them jumps to them landing on a surfboard, which it's just motion and movement, right? They're not literally jumping onto a surfboard from their rollerblades, but just the style of that, I just love it, man. It looks great.
It's a creative style, and little flourishes like that I was not expecting in this kind of movie, because early 90s, like, extreme sports movie, you don't expect it to be, like, well acted or to look good at all. You're just thinking, okay, this is going to be cheesy garbage, like just teen movie throwaway stuff. But talking about them being surfers, I was not expecting them to be surfers as well as rollerbladers, because that is not something that gels in my mind. I mean, maybe if they were skaters and surfers, because, you have, like, the Z-Boys and the Dogtown and Z-Boys, like surfer skater crews and stuff like that. But, they go from, especially it's just like Airborne. I see the cover. I see this movie's about rollerbladers. And then you get into it and it's like, how many extreme sports do we have in this movie? Like, he goes from rollerblading to surfing, and then he gets pulled over to Cincinnati, and then they're ice skating and hockey, and then street hockey, and then back to rollerblading. Like, this is just like a whole X Games, like, within this movie.
And in that sublime montage that we'll talk about later, where he gets his groove back after, like, some downtimes, there's some bicyclists too doing tricks.
Oh yes, some BMX, yeah, and some skaters. I think, like, there's some young skaters that follow him at one point. Yeah, so you got everything in this, man. I was surprised, especially just going straight up from the beginning. Like, okay, they're rollerbladers, they're out on the street, and then we dive into Mitchell's character. He's this Southern Californian, surfer dude, basically, where he's got the accent and he's really chill, and he's got this kind of personal philosophy of pacifism. He's just very, like, laid back and very stereotypically Southern Californian. So I was not expecting that.
Yeah, he's really different as a 90s protagonist. And I love, too, and I think this is something that Bowman did well in X-Files episodes. Right whenever he gets home from his little surfing adventure, he walks in, he thanks his rollerblades, and then he gushes over his dog when the dog runs to him. And then when he sees his parents, he gets this huge happy grin on his face. And it's like, him. Like, it took 10 seconds, and then you know who he is.
Man, this whole, like, you talked about the vibe with Gleaming the Cube. I felt the same way about this, like, just from the opening and then all the way through, like, just super cool, like, very chill, natural vibe to everything. The sun, the waves, the skating. I mean, of course, I've got to get over my bias against rollerblading, right? And I'll kind of, like, reveal myself later as we get into it. But, then you've got this giant house, the dog, Mitchell's inflection, just, like, very charming, charismatic, like, that accent, that Southern, like, chill, bruh, like, feels very at home to me. It feels very easy to dive into for whatever reason. It's just very early 90s Cali vibes, which I just thought was rad. I was into it, like, just from the beginning. Then his parents break it to him. He's moving to Cincinnati. So we get this great opening, all these sun tones, this very chill, like, sunbathe Californian beginning. And then what do we get next? Right into the snow. And I love the shot of the surfboard he brings with him to Cincinnati coming out of the luggage compartment on the airplane onto the conveyor belt. So it's just all this snow blowing all around, and then his surfboard is coming down the conveyor belt. I thought that was a really cool shot as well.
Yeah, it's really awesome. And I love the irony, too, that his parents are professors, and they're moving to Australia on a grant, which is the best place to surf in the world. And he can't go. He has to stay in school in America.
Yeah, he's so excited. He's like, oh, yeah, I'll come with you guys. We got giant waves. Like, I don't know, his whole little monologue there of, like, everything he's excited about, like, trying to remember the specifics, but at some point he refers to like girls on the beach in a specific way that I thought was
Sheila's.
Sheila's, yes. Tan Sheila's by the dozen or something. It's just like, what is this?
With Yabos and Bobos.
No, Yabos and Bobos and Sheila's. He doesn't say that. No.
He's a very respectful man.
He is, and I appreciated that too. Like his character, you see as we go through it, he's very respectful. He's very mature, even though he's got, you know, that stereotypical, like maybe you'd think he's kind of goofy or dumb by his accent and his, you know, his colloquialisms. But yeah, he's like a smart, very just chill, respectful dude.
Yes,
so.
And he meets his loving Aunt Edie, as well as his no, not Aunt Edie, it's Aunt Irene. But I'm sorry, I'm
Aunt
so
Irene,
excited.
played by Edie McClure.
Yeah. Yes, who's brilliant. She's so funny in everything. She's in Ferris Bueller, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. She's got that awesome Midwestern accent, and his Uncle Louie is there, and they're just so cornball Midwestern awesome. And then their son, played by Seth Green. Their son, Wiley. Seth Green, really, this was like the first time that I think I saw him, or Jack Black for that matter, in anything. And he makes a big impression. And it's just this kind of weird little dude who's, you know, there's some Popeye metaphors later that we'll get into. But I just love their dialogue in the car. It's so funny as they're driving to their house and trying to introduce Goose to, you know, Mitchell Goosen, if people call him Goose. They're trying to introduce him to his new environment, and she says, "Oh, there's the hole where the sausage factory used to be."
Right. That was a great line.
She's like, "I'd love to go to California, but too many salads make me dyspeptic."
Yeah, she has a lot of great, just like throwaway lines, like you said. Real, you know, she's an instant recognizable character actor, and you know, obviously just perfect for the part with that Midwestern charm. But I really dig the natural vibe here. Just going back to that, where they go into his aunt and uncle's house, and it just feels very lived in. You know, there's just stuff everywhere. It doesn't feel like a clean set. You know, it feels like a real house that you're going into, and you have the aunt is just hamming it up, keeps going with this shtick where she's just like all over Mitchell, like pinching his cheeks and just kind of oohing and ahhing over him and telling him how he could give Seth Green pointers to get the ladies. Like, he basically just met this kid, and you're gonna make him hate his cousin because Seth Green, like I said, he's just little dude. He's got like this kind of like cropped red, like frizzy hair. I don't know, he just looks really dorky, but he's obviously trying really hard to like look punk or look cool or something, you know. But he brings him down to his lair. What did you think about his basement bedroom and like all this stuff down there?
Well, I love as they're heading down there that you hear the mom make the very metaphysical comment, "That Mitchell is quite tall for his height," which like it's like she's seen through to his soul and can tell about his maturity. He's quite tall for his height. But I love that they go down to like this. Basically, Wiley is trying to be like this cool, dark punk, like rocker kid, but really like he just likes to be in the basement and play Nintendo. And he's like, you know, 5'2".
Right.
And I like that Goose is just like, yeah, I mean, this is weird, but whatever, cool.
Right, because he kind of gives him crap at first, like, you know, he's like, yeah, I'll just be here for a few months or whatever. But yeah, he's very chill about it. He's like, all right, yeah, man, whatever. But Seth Green, you know, the whole movie just trying too hard. That's basically his character.
He does amazing at it. But,
which, yeah, he's great at.
But things don't go so smoothly whenever he goes to his first day of school in cold, hard Cincinnati the next day and makes the mistake of giving a peace sign as he walks into class, which everyone boos, which was amazing.
Yeah, everybody just boos. Yeah, I love that. And, you know, before we get there, he bumps into Snake, our, like, token Latino gang member named Snake, who's played by
he's played by Jacob Vargas, and I love the line that's said about him, which is, "That was Snake Man, voted most likely to eat his young," which Seth Green says, which I don't know if he improv that or not, but it was great.
That is pretty great. But yeah, I like in speech class when after he gives the peace sign, he said they all boo him, and you know, they introduce him to the class. I love the little flourish where it dips into the other students' heads as they're imagining things about him. So you have Jack, who's like this tough guy, like captain of the hockey team type of dude. And he's very slighted immediately by Goose because his girlfriend, I don't know if we ever give her name or not, but she starts making eyes at Goose immediately and waving at him and, drops her book so he'll pick it up. Well, Jack, then we see from his imagination him running across the class and grabbing Goose and throwing him out the window, which I thought was pretty amazing. Yeah. And then you have the two pretty girls in class, like imagining Goose in his boxers, with like the wind blowing on him as if he's like on a Californian beach or something.
Which is, again, different from what you usually get from this period. You get women being objectified, but here really Mitchell gets objectified throughout the movie.
Yeah, which I thought it was, that was interesting. And just the fact that we are introduced to some of these characters that way, which is just a different kind of style than you would normally see. You might, normally see just like a straightaway, like either from the main character's perspective or just kind of like cut and paste, like kind of bland classroom scene. But those were some cool little like stylistic flourishes.
Yeah, for sure. And something that I really enjoyed, and I know this might seem like I'm going too deep into a 1993 rollerblading movie called Airborne, but watching it multiple times and watching it, being in my 40s, watching it before, I kind of, you identify with Mitchell just because he's the main character, maybe being closer to his age, but watching it now and kind of seeing like the ways that Mitchell is flawed. And there's a part there where I really think the character of Jack in this movie is a total badass. Chris Conrad, I just think he's so cool in this movie. I don't know why. He's just like this big, gruff guy who's just holding it down because, their school, it's like where the not rich kids go because their enemies, the enemies of the movie turn out to be the preps. They're the main bad guys.
The preps are the bad guys. Yes, dude. Because that totally brings me back to the 90s and like middle school.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Our enemies, the skaters versus the preps,
I loved how as much as Jack is kind of irritated by Goose's presence here, Goose, Mitchell, I'm just going to keep jumping back and forth. Something I noticed this time that I didn't before is where when he offers Mitchell the chance to play hockey with everyone, it's like a kind gesture from him. Like, hey, do you want to like join us and be a part of what we are? And Mitchell blows it off. And it really hurts his feelings, which I never noticed before until I watched it the last time. I was like, man, the way that he's being kind of dismissive of where he's arrived in subtle ways is really kind of setting him up for the failure that he'll have about halfway through this movie, which I never noticed before. So again, some more depth here to Airborne, which I thought was awesome.
Granted, Jack Black and the character Jack are immediately like making fun of Mitchell in class, yes. Especially after the peace sign and after they ask him like, what is, he was like, my perfect day is catching some sun and going out on the waves. And, they start making fun of him and start making fun of surfing and how it's not a real sport. So like they give him crap immediately before he's done anything to them. So
that is true, Jordan.
I don't feel bad for Jack at all because Mitchell didn't want to be on some douchebags hockey team.
But he's on Jack's turf, man.
That's true.
Cincinnati is Jack's world.
You're Team Jack. I'm Team Goose. Bring it.
I like both of them. Everyone but the preps. The preps suck, but I even love
the
Snake.
Preps do suck.
Snake is totally awesome.
Yes, I love all those characters.
And I love how dumb Jack Black is at this point, too, because in speech class, when he has to talk about himself, he says, I really like to sleep, and I like Nintendo. I like Nintendo, and I like to sleep. I like, and then he kind of just falls asleep standing up. It's amazing.
Well, he kind of like freaks out, too, because he doesn't know what else to say. He does that, even young Jack Black, he's just got that kind of like nervous, frazzled energy where he's just like, and he's shaking his hands, Talking about Jack Black, there's this line where, they're giving him a hard time and Mitchell is just like, chill, brah, which he says like times 1,000 throughout this movie. And then Jack Black says, did he just call you a pair of ladies' underwear? And I'm like, dude, it's 1993. Have you never heard someone say brah?
Not in Cincinnati, dude.
Or is that a Cincinnati thing? Like Cincinnati, I don't know, they're saying bro. I just feel like it's such a ubiquitous thing to the 90s in general, not just Cali. But yeah, maybe it's just not like a phrase they're used to here and there.
Dude, in the culture of this school, you just nod. You don't say brah or bro. You just nod at each other and that's it.
Yeah, you don't say anything because you're in the Midwest. Keep to yourself or you punch someone in the face.
Yes.
Or during a hockey match.
And going back to what you were saying too, yeah, I mean, Jack and Jack Black, yet they're not the best people at this point either. They do have their own growth throughout the film. A lot of the stuff that they do after this isn't cool either, because they basically they torture poor Mitchell for about the next 20 minutes of the movie.
Right, basically he's just getting hazed like for 20 minutes where they're putting sand in his locker, they're dumping crap on him during class, they're stealing his clothes out of the shower. So yeah, you have like a whole montage of that basically where he's just getting tarred and feathered. I wanted to mention too, this character Jack, the actor who's playing him, he looks like he's like 40 years old in high school. He's the oldest high schooler I've seen in a movie, because you know, sometimes you might have a high schooler who looks like 20, like everyone's 20 playing 18 or 25 playing 16 or whatever, but this dude looks like he's 40 years old, honestly.
He was 23 when this was released, so I guess he was like 22 when they filmed it.
I guess if you're 23 in the Midwest, you look like you're 40.
That's 33 at least. Just add those 10 Midwest years right there.
That's right. So they go to watch the hockey game. You know, Wiley gets kind of roped in because some other kids get detention or something, and he's, you know, immediately clobbered. And Mitchell's got to come in the game for him, right? So at this point, I'm like, dude, I thought this was a rollerblader movie. How many sports are we getting here? And as he's watching the game, he meets another important character, which would be Nikki, which becomes his romantic summer fling, if you will. And he goes into this monologue about fighting because I guess they're watching people fight during the hockey game, and his personal surfer philosophy of pacifism. And he starts to talk about, like, you know, I knew this guy who would like fight anybody for the waves, and then he beat the shit out of this kid. She asked him, like, what happened to him now? And she's like, well, now he's in Cincinnati. So like, we're to believe this very chill, very young Mitchell has already gone through enough life experience where like he used to basically kill kids for being on his waves.
No, because I've seen this so many times. So the exact detail of the story is that there was this wave and he felt very possessive of it. And this other kid wanted to come share the wave with him, and he very aggressively moved his board toward this guy to cut him off and hit the kid in the head by accident with his surfboard, and the kid needed stitches. That's what he didn't beat anyone up. But he did that. He acted aggressively, and that's why he'll never do it again, because as he says at this point in the movie, nothing is worth fighting for.
That's right. And that is the crux of our like emotional trajectory here, where at this point his problem is that he won't stand up and fight, right? And it's basically the movie is like, come on, Mitchell, stand up and fight. Get violent, Mitchell. Beat somebody up, Mitchell. This is the Midwest. This is hockey, Mitchell. You need to kill some people.
And again, the movie does a good job of like getting him to learn that just because you don't physically fight doesn't mean that you can't stand up for something or someone.
Yeah, you don't have to physically fight. You just pants the prep in front of everybody because emotional torture is much better, you know?
Yeah, that's right. Well, before we get there, first off, I have to say to you, Shane McDermott playing Mitchell and Brittany Powell playing Nikki, I thought they had really, really good chemistry, man. They must have screen tested a lot of people together, because I thought they were great together.
I did too. I really enjoyed the romance here because it just, again, a lot of this felt surprisingly natural and like low key and chill. Like you were just watching these two people who had just met hang out and kind of develop this romance. And it's not very overt or very sexual. It just feels very innocent and sweet, and I felt like that just made this movie like that more endearing. Like they go to the arboretum and they're hanging out and like talking about the plants, and then he's like, oh, I gotta skate. So he sees like these pathways through the arboretum. Like at the same time I'm like, this is sweet, but I'm like, this dude's gotta skate like a douche while the girl runs after you and bad 90s dance music plays. And it's just like super cheesy, but also just really endearing at the same time.
That's right. So after all the scenes of him being tortured basically and just really having a rough time, I just love the like the work with tone here, where after he has this really rough day and he gets home and he sits down and his aunt is really worried about him. I think she thought that he drug overdosed or something. She's freaking out and he's like, oh no, I'm all right, whatever. And she reveals that his parents have shipped his rollerblades, which he's like, I can't believe I forgot these, which is crazy, but he was just so fixated on that surfboard, I guess. And then it's just like such a cathartic moment. When he goes on this little impromptu date with Nikki, and I wrote down Goose skating around the greenhouse and Brittany Powell chasing him around with that light hip-hop track playing is like early 90s manna from heaven. Like, yeah, it's kind of cheesy, but it just feels so good.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole vibe of this movie. Like, early 90s manna from heaven, basically. Because, yeah, it's cheesy, but it does feel good. I'm with you.
And I love how they build on like those good feelings that start coming up once he's gotten his rollerblades, just really as soon as he goes outside with his rollerblades, because you go straight from like that really great date where he's on this huge high. It cuts to the montage scene where he's just skating around Cincinnati and kids are following him around on all their different modes of transportation. And then Stuart Copeland did the soundtrack for this movie. He also did Surviving the Game.
Oh, right. I didn't realize it was Stuart Copeland. Okay.
Yes, another soundtrack that was never released, so I could not collect the soundtrack for Airborne, and I am bummed. Stuart Copeland's agents, get on that, because he does this rock instrumental here, which I don't know if you've dove deep into the... I mean, the Police only have 5 albums, but they had a thing where they'd end albums on instrumentals, or songs that were near instrumentals, where it was just like driving bass and these badass drums, and that's what Stuart Copeland did here. He basically just added an instrumental Police song for this montage, and I love it. I love this scene, man.
I will have to say, I'm sorry, but I did not dig the music in this movie, man. Like, I wasn't digging the early 90s dance instrumental, like, I don't know. Parts of it feel more like hip-hop-y, and then, yeah, some of it just feels kind of like cheesy 90s dance instrumental. I don't know.
But he didn't do those songs now. Like actual like other artists did those songs, man. He just did like this kind of stuff.
I'll have to go back and watch it because I don't recall the specifics of the music in that particular scene. Yeah, I guess there were other artists at different points with actual hip hop or like R&B dance kind of stuff.
If it's got singing or it's got
yeah,
then that's not him. It's not him. Okay. It's not Stuart Copeland.
Right. Okay, I'll have to go back and revisit that little section for his stuff.
But how awesome is this montage, dude?
I love it, and I love the montage as well of Seth Green. So they decide they're going to go on a double date, Nikki, and she's going to bring along a friend for Mitchell and Seth Green. And you got this little montage of Seth Green trying on all these random outfits, just goofy outfits of him just going, to the "I'm Too Sexy" song. So what did you think of that?
Man, that's the scene a lot of people who have seen this remember most from this movie. It's kind of an iconic scene, even for a movie this small.
Right.
I don't know what it is about it. Again, it's like nothing complicated. It's just Seth Green coming out in outfits while Goose laughs at him, but I don't know, man. It's a fun scene, and I love how it gets led into, between the montage and this, you get the scene where Mitchell is imagining himself surfing, like, on his bed, on the surfboard, and then they cut to actual surf footage. I thought was really sublime. So you go from the montage to that, to Seth Green doing the "I'm Too Sexy" wardrobe montage, and it's just like 3 excellent montages back to back to back.
Basically, yeah. This whole movie is a montage.
It just puts me in this great, like, dopamine addled state. Give me more montages.
Right. Man, smoking that montage tonight, guys.
That's right. And then Mitchell talks about Popeye. We get the Popeye metaphor where Seth Green is discouraged at all the laughter that he's receiving in his wardrobe changes. And, Goose just tells him, like, Popeye had the best philosophy. I am what I am, and he's like, just be yourself. And that was awesome. I like that, too.
That was good stuff. I love how genuine the laughter from Goose seems as Seth Green is coming out. Like, it definitely feels like they just set up a camera on him as he watched Seth Green come out in all those goofy outfits, and he was just like literally laughing his head off. Well, not literally, because he does have his head at the end of that shot, but yeah, he's genuinely laughing.
Not literally, yes. And then they go on this double date. Seth Green gets to go out with Gloria, who Nikki brings along. Did you love Gloria's reaction to opening the door to Seth Green being there?
Oh yeah. She's just kind of like and wants to walk back inside and basically die, because she'd rather die than go on a date with red cropped frizzy haired Seth Green with, I don't know, does he have the John Lennon glasses on at this point? I don't remember.
He's so awkward it almost doesn't matter. He's wearing them metaphorically, if not physically.
Right.
And dude,
right.
This actress playing Gloria, gosh, what's her first name? I think her name is Alana Ubach.
Yeah, that's right.
She is like a prolific voice actress. She's done a ton of voice acting after this, and she just has this weird, great, high nasally voice, which is amazing too, and that just makes everything better too, in my opinion.
Yeah, I thought she's good. Like, right up there with Brittany Powell, for sure. Memorable. They go on this date, and she's definitely not feeling it, and Mitchell and Nikki are just having a great old time. They go down to the pier. They have a little kiss. It's getting just very sweet, early 90s, like you said, all throughout this thing.
You got your hip-hop song, Jordan, where he's like, try my love, baby, ooh, ooh. It is cheesy, but whatever. I'm feeling it. I'm fine with it.
I mean, I'm fine with that. In that scene, it's working. Then they go to the restaurant where they're, sitting down, having a meal. And, of course, Blaine, one of the preps, shows up. He's just like our main bad guy, our like the douchiest prep of them all. And he starts to just manhandle these girls. He's just grabbing them out of the seat. He's like, come dance with me, baby. All this stuff. He's just really being an a-hole. And I like how, so basically Seth Green's character, he does try and stand up and get him to stop, and he gets knocked out. And that warms Gloria up to him basically for the rest of the movie. Like he's can do no wrong after this.
Because Mitchell doesn't stand up.
Because Mitchell doesn't stand up. He doesn't do anything, right? Because he's a pacifist. This is his problem. He's not, willing to fight. They don't really belabor it in that moment. You just don't see him do anything. But then Jack shows up, of course. And I like how Jack tells Blaine to leave. And Blaine's just like, this isn't over, Jack. And knocks over a chair like a toddler, and then he just storms out.
But dude, whenever Jack walks in, weren't you just like, yes? Like he looks so badass coming in there like he's about to wreck shop.
I was just kind of surprised too. Like Blaine's a pretty big dude, but Jack is basically like, get out. And then he listens to him without much of a fight. He's just like, this isn't over, Jack. Okay, you're not gonna try and fight him here. I guess, obviously this dude's 40 years old, like built like a brick. So you're not going to fight Mr. Conrad or whatever his name is.
And there's a lot going on in the scene, because this is where we find out that Jack and Nikki are actually siblings. She's his sister.
Of course they are.
So that complicates things in the perfect 90s way.
Oh, of course. I mean, again, you're Team Jack, but he's pretty much like, you're coming home with me, Nikki. Like, you can't be hanging out with Mr. California. Like, let the lady have a choice, man. Thought you were like a stand-up guy. I thought like at one point he was like, she's made her choice. And I thought he like knew that she was with Mitchell and he was like respecting her choice. But then no, he dives down and he's like, yeah, you got to leave with me now.
Look, I'm going to defend him right now because, A, we find out that Nikki actually dated Blaine, the prep, back in the day. Did you catch that?
So she did make a choice not to date him anymore, I guess.
Yes, so she broke up with Blaine at some point before the timeline of the movie begins. And look, I'm just going to tell you this, Jordan. I'm the oldest. I have a sister in the middle between Charlie and I. And you know what? She's great, and I love her now. but she was really naive about boys back in high school, and everyone was trying to get with her, and I had to do a lot of Jack stuff, dude.
Oh, that's why you're relating to Jack. Okay. You've got the whole older sibling thing going on here.
Yeah, there are at least 3 or 4 guys that I said, if you get near my sister, I will fucking kill you. You know, like that happened 3 or 4 times. And the guys were all douchebags, and they were all the worst. And I don't regret it for a second. So, you know what? Maybe he goes a little too far, but I get where he's coming from.
Get where he's coming from, but he's got to give Mr. California a chance. You know, he's basically just like, I don't like this dude. But obviously he's not like a bad guy or anything. He's not like a Blaine. So he doesn't really have any good reason to say like, no, you can't hang out with him other than I have this personal grudge against him.
Yes. Really, though, this isn't not even in defense of Jack, even though it gives more fuel to Jack's fire. This is where Mitchell makes his grand mistake. And really, this is kind of the crux of the movie and where we find that he has a huge lesson to learn. He says to the prep, you ain't worth it, brah. No one here is. No one. And of course, when he says it, Nikki's like, oh, so I'm not worth it. That's great. Great. All right. I guess I'll go home with my brother. See ya.
Right. See you later. Yeah, he's like, I'm out of here in a few months. You know, you're not worth it. I'm not going to fight. I thought that was an interesting twist for, you know, we give him a flaw. We have a conflict between him and this girl. They're getting together. Things are starting to happen. But I mean, if you think about it, he is right. Like, he's only there for 6 months. He is going to go back to California. So, like, is he going to get the shit kicked out of him for this girl that he just met? I mean, should he even really be starting a relationship with this girl he just met when he's going to be leaving in a few months and he's, you know, 18 or whatever, you know?
If he was in it enough to have his tongue down her throat 5 minutes before this happens, he was in it enough to fight this guy that was grabbing all over and physically threatening her.
Oh, I agree. I mean, he should have, especially, you know, this dude is physically threatening a young lady. He, you know, and he's in a position he could have stopped that or done something about it. He definitely should have stood up. But I think, you know, just going back before he stuck his tongue down her throat and, you know, made the moves on her at the Arboretum or whatever, like, dude, you're going to get involved. But, I mean, of course, this is kind of a part of that sweet 90s vibe, you know, where you go off on vacation for a month or something and you meet some girl in another city and you have this proximity infatuation and, you know, and then it's just kind of like this little summer fling, right? And you go back and you move on. And I feel like that's what this is. They don't know that. They don't know that's what this is. And obviously she wants him to stand up and fight for her. But, you know, in the long run, that's what it is. And yeah, as a part of his character development, yes, he should, you know, stand up and fight for what he believes in and not just be like a bystander with all this while he's here. He should participate. So
yeah, and he disappoints everyone because Seth Green is the most disappointed of all because he put his body on the line here and he got the crap kicked out of him while Goose just sat there and didn't do anything. So he's as pissed as anyone. So he just leaves Goose there in the street, gets in his car, and he drives off.
That's right. And then later we have Goose just haunted. I like how every note I have for this character is Mitchell, but you brought him to Gooseland, so I'm going with it. He has this dream, which is kind of a turning point for his character where he realizes he's got to stand up and fight. So,
well, it's obvious that Jack is the shark and Nikki's the wave. And he doesn't want me near his sister. La ola es mia. The wave is mine. So what does he do? He comes at me like a shark. He's trying to scare me away from the wave, man.
The point is?
The point is, when you got a perfect wave, a perfect anything, you go for it. You don't worry about what the shark has stuffed up his butt. I mean, there will always be sharks. But how often does this once-in-a-lifetime wave come along?
You got to ride that wave because I love to surf.
And then I love how, again, he's so, like, ahead of the game. Whenever Seth Green is like, you woke me up for a lousy dream, he's like, everything we need to know is in our dreams, man. They're windows to enlightenment.
I know, it says this, like, I don't know, is he 17, 18 years old?
I think he's 16. It's
16.
Awesome. He's the wisest 16-year-old ever.
Exactly. He's the wisest person at 16 years old. He's just fully enlightened. He's like the Bodhi Vista, man. He's like Patrick Swayze as a 16-year-old kid in Cincinnati.
Dude, is this just a prelude to Point Break? Like, is this a Point Break prequel?
I think so. I'm pretty sure he's Bodhi's character. I mean, that does mean he grows up to be a bank robber and then maybe dies via a giant wave in Australia, which, hey, that could have been coming to him all along if he had gone with his parents to Australia, right?
Dude! Because he takes the lessons that he learns here. He realizes he has to fight for surfing, right? He has to rob the banks to surf.
That's right. He learned all the lessons, but in the wrong way.
Holy crap!
I'm telling you, man, this movie wanted him to kill people, and he grew up, and he did in Point Break.
No, I don't know about that, but yes, I think this is the Point Break prequel. You heard it here first. People, if you heard this anywhere but Filmshake, they ripped this off. Tell us so we can sue.
We just unlocked this. This is the key to Point Break right here.
Man, get Gary Busey on the line.
Right, he knew all along. He's like, in a few years, they're going to make a prequel named Airborne.
Yes, and this amazing dream that he has, of course, takes him out to where all the kids are playing hockey. Again, you've got, it's street hockey, not ice hockey this time. And they've got the ball, which I always hated the ball, dude. I didn't think it was as cool as the puck with the wheels inside of it, which I had like 3 or 4 of, which I found one when I went to my parents' house a while back, and I showed it to my kid, and I still have my hockey sticks. I've got a Coho, and I've got an aluminum Easton, but the fiberglass Coho is my favorite stick, man. And I saw my puck, and I said, "Look, man," and I was gonna hit it, and I did, and it just evaporated. Like when I hit it, it just turned to dust. No. It was such a bummer.
That sucks, man. Talking about street hockey now, like I said, I was anti-rollerblader, but before I did, join like the skater cliques and got into skating, I will say when I was younger, that was a thing that I did do at times. I did have rollerblades. I did play street hockey, and I was pretty decent at it. I remember scoring the winning shot all the way back of like where I'm behind my goal, right? And like we're playing in my neighbor's driveway, and I slap shot the puck all the way from the back of our goal into their goal on the other end of the driveway, and win the game. And we were always out in the street like playing street hockey, and sometimes we didn't even have rollerblades on. We were just like playing in our sneakers, So street hockey, this brings me back. This kind of brings me back to a time before the skateboarder days, before the when I was unbiased and free from my coolness and free from ego that developed as a skateboarder. So in those early 90s, you could look ridiculous and not care, right? And I don't care if you're Patrick Swayze or not, you're gonna look ridiculous wearing a pair of rollerblades. That's all there is to it.
Oh man, well, when I met you were skateboarding, so I miss this period of your life where you were Jordan Courtney, Wayne Gretzky of the streets, man. That sounds awesome.
Wayne Gretzky of the streets, yes.
Speaking of, we get this, basically, Goose's plan is that he's going to join up with the kids from his school, which again, like the school he goes to is like the lower income and middle class kids, lower middle class. He's going to join their team and play hockey with them against the preps to try to win them over finally, because they haven't been kind to him, but he's kind of been dismissive of them too. So he's going to make peace with them. And he also has to show Nikki that he's going to fight. So like you said, the best way that he can think to do it, he gets asked by Seth Green, "You going to fight?" And he says, "And have Gandhi roll over in his grave, man."
Right. He's like all into Gandhi at 16 years old. Yeah.
So instead of fighting, as you said, he goes to the lead prep and he pantses him. That's right. He pulls his pants down. We get a full moon. We get Gloria covering up Nikki's eyes, which I thought was a great touch. It's what he does, and then he skates away. He does take a beating before that, though. He does so he's all bloody and he's got blood on his hockey jersey. But he skates off. Everyone's all exuberant and excited and happy that he's pantsed this kid. Like he's finally won all these tough Cincinnati kids over to his side.
Yeah, that's all he had to do was pants this kid. Like, you don't have to resort to violence. You just pant somebody and you're in. And then, you have a rollerblader race to decide everything at the end of the movie.
Pants a prep and then rollerblade race.
That's right.
So he goes back to Wiley's house, and all of a sudden we get the shot of all the Cincinnati kids from his school walking slowly to the door, and you don't know what's going to happen. They have gruff faces, and they walk in, and his aunt and uncle are there, and they're like, "Hi, are you Wiley's friends?" And he talks all about you, and you know what? They're not there to see Wiley, no offense. They're there to see Goose and high-five him and tell him that he's one of them now, and that they're going to finally settle this thing between them and the preps. They're going to do it by having a race down the most deadliest series of hills in Cincinnati, Jordan. And I don't know if you knew that this was coming, but I got to tell you, well, really, I got to ask you, as soon as you heard the sounds of the wind and the gear being tightened and put on, and then that tense note of music rising and going up as they're getting to the top of this hill, and the camera work is so awesome, and the tom-toms come onto the soundtrack, were you getting pumped? Like, wait, what's happening here? Like, is something incredible about to happen? Did you feel that way, Jordan?
Something was shifting inside me, man, because, every part of me just wants to be anti-rollerblader, right? I'm just like, no, that's lame. This is stupid. Like, I don't want to like this movie, but I do. And I have to admit, though, everyone does look ridiculous because, again, they're wearing these boots with wheels on the bottom of them. It's a pretty thrilling race at the end, and I like how, like you said, the camera work is really well done. It's very thrilling. They're going in and out of all these different places. It feels like they're going all over the freaking city. Like, one question I had was, it feels so random. They're turning into like so many random streets, onto bridges, different places. I'm like, how do they know where to go? They're just taking turn after turn, but especially Mitchell, who doesn't know the city at all, but I guess he's following everyone else. But I'm like, how do the people in the lead know where to go?
Well, yeah, that's something that I noticed on rewatches is he has no idea where he's going. Like, he just keeps looking for people ahead of him, which, they kind of established that this is like a famously dangerous series of hills and turns. So I think that the kids know it from that. And they're kind of also, I think, all just following the three kids in the lead, which for most of the race, it's Snake and two preps. Oh, yeah, and we forgot to say the main rule of the race is that the first group to get three people across the finish line wins. So if one prep crosses the line, they don't win. They got to get three. Same with our group of tough Cincinnati kids. They got to get three across.
I mean, that is a rule, but I thought the main rule was anything goes, as Blaine says, which I thought, for one, it's cool that they win this race without really being dirty, but I kept waiting for the other team, for the preps, to trip somebody, because the whole time they're grabbing all on Mitchell. They're right behind him. They're trying to like smash him over into a car or a rail or something, and then they keep cutting away to like their feet and the rollerblades. I'm like, when's someone gonna try and just straight up trip somebody? It never happens.
That's wrong. It happens multiple times. Multiple times, and I can point out the characters that it happens to.
Okay.
The two most notable occasions are whenever they go into the really tight turns in the stadium near the end. Snake gets tripped and shoved into a wall, and he yells something in Spanish at the two guys, but then he catches up with them later. And then Jack gets tripped and thrown on the ground right at the end of the race. It's a major plot point of the race, as far as Jack and Goose finally becoming bras, is that he has to help Jack up after he's been tripped and slammed into the ground. So that's wrong, Jordan. You're wrong. Incorrect.
Maybe I'm thinking of earlier in the race where specifically Mitchell, and there's a prep like right behind them, and they're like still like on these kind of streets with trees all around. They're not quite like in the downtown area yet. But I'm like, there's a prep right behind you, and he's just kind of like grabbing on his shoulders and stuff. I'm like, you could just trip him. But I don't know. Maybe it's like an unspoken inline skater rule not to trip, but obviously not, because you just pointed out two occasions.
That hill was so steep that it would be tough to trip someone and not fall yourself. And he is also like stealing all of Mitchell's work and momentum. Like, I think he's grabbing on him to just try to kind of like in Back to the Future, where Marty is grabbing onto the truck. I feel like he was using Mitchell as the truck, and Mitchell has to keep putting his one foot up on the little highway barricade to not get knocked off, because the kid keeps grabbing him. But
that was a cool touch. Yeah, that was like an just like little details like that kept the race really interesting. Like you said, putting up his wheels on the highway barrier and everything. But especially at the end where, like I said, Mitchell doesn't know where he's at in the city. And he's like above still in this parking garage, it looks like. And he notices, he's like, where do they go? Where'd they go? And he finally notices there a crowd of people, the finish line. I've already got 2 preps through the finish line and Snake. So Jack is ahead of him. Mitchell needs to catch up so he can help win the race. And what does he do? He goes airborne. Because he hops, he checks out his surroundings, and he hops off the parking garage onto like a tractor trailer, and then like races down that to get to the finish line. And of course, Blaine tries to take him out, but he's a little overzealous. He rushes at him. Again, I guess you could say this is another moment where he's playing dirty. He's not tripping him, but he's just going to try and like basically slam him off the cliff into the water, and he ends up in the water himself.
Yes, that's right. This is after he tripped Jack, and it's just between him and Goose, but if he makes it to the end, he's going to win. But like you said, he goes flying off the rail, and dude, I'm going to say something that's controversial, but I don't care. This is a pure action scene. It feels so pure. The camera work, like the stunt work, the way that the race was planned out, the geography of the race, the way that they show you everyone in their outfits, like at the top of the hill, where you can like pick people apart and tell who everyone is throughout the race just from what they're wearing, since they clearly showed you that before. I think this is one of the best action scenes of the 90s, man. I've watched it like 24 times by this point, just this scene. And if you just look at the crap they're doing, it's ridiculous. Like all the stunts around cars, like when they're going through intersections and almost getting hit by cars. There's a scene.
Insane.
It was nuts, and the camera's just following right below them. I mean, right behind them at ankle level. Whenever Goose jumps over the car that's driving uphill at him, downhill over the car, it's insane. There's like so many nutsy stunts here. Dude, the guy that slides into the car, that dude's dead. Like, no one can convince me that stuntman didn't die there and they haven't covered it up, because that was insane. Like, he hits the car skating downhill like 40 miles an hour and hits his head sliding underneath it and skidding to a halt. There's no way. That dude's up in skating heaven right now, man, with Mondo Shark.
Skate heaven. That's right. Man, it's good. I will agree. That's a bold claim, one of the best of the 90s, but as far as rollerblade races go, it must be the best. I mean, I can't think of another movie that has a rollerblade race to this degree. This is like rollerblade race on steroids. Like, this is definitely worthy to be called an extreme sport here, just especially because of the hills and stuff they're going down. I really like the touch where as they're going down these steep hills and turning these sharp corners, they've got to slow down, right? And so they use the little brake on the on the back of the rollerblade, which again, little detail you might not get in just a throwaway movie like Brink or something, but really.
And the smoke coming off the brakes too, man, to show like they're really doing this.
Because that's some real stuff. Like, I can remember, again, having rollerblades and slowing down from like going down a steep hill and that kind of, seeing that kind of smoke fly up and burning rubber and the nasty smell you'd get on those things. So yeah. Very cool details here.
And you could feel the heat on your heel.
Very well shot. Oh, yes. Yeah.
And we didn't even mention the name of the course, as they call it. It's Devil's Backbone.
Of course it is. And let's rollerblade down Devil's Backbone.
Yes. And so that's the end of the races. The prep goes over, and then Mitchell skates over to Jack, who has been knocked down and knocked out by the stupid, evil Blaine prep guy. That's the worst. Yes.
I love how we hate him so equally. How could you not? Like, he's well played by whatever actor that is. He's just the worst. He's got the lame, douchey, blonde, swoopy hair. Yeah,
that we hate, that stupid straight hair that we don't have. What a jackass.
Yeah. Damn you for being born with that hair.
Yeah, a-hole. Yeah. So he goes over to Jack and he's like, Jack, come on, man. We got to win this thing. You can do it. Get up, buddy. Get up. Come on. You can do it. And then he reaches down and there's a close up of their hands hitting together in a handshake. They're finally bras now, not like a bra that ladies wear on their yabos or their bobos, but best
Glad you
buds.
brought that back.
And he helps him up, and the two of them skate over the finish line together. Snake's already there waiting because he's the most badass character, and he already won this thing, just as a single racer. But they come over the line, and they win. They beat the stupid preps, and then they have a triple handshake. That is so awesome. It's the best. And I had a triple handshake one time. Like, I went on a trip with my cousin Adrian, and it was his bachelor party, and I didn't know the other guys, but I ended up getting along really well with them. And the last two guys that were on that trip, when we were saying goodbye, we went to shake each other's hands, and we just inadvertently did a badass triple handshake, just like the one in this movie. It's so awesome. And then
you love this movie.
I do. And then Wiley, of course, he tries to be brave and do the race. He doesn't make it. He and the nerd prep, they kind of take each other out early on. But they get a truck ride down and no one notices that the truck dropped them off, so they both try to skate over the finish line.
I love how they both look at each other like, oh, wait, there's the finish line. And so they like do like a little mini race right there.
That's right. And Wiley wins, and then he falls to the ground, and the nerd prep falls to the ground. I love how Gloria sees him and runs, and she stomps on the nerd prep's chest to get to Seth Green. It's amazing. They butt heads when they try to kiss, and it's so awkward and awesome, but then they really do kiss, and he starts trying to tell her about Popeye because he's delirious, but then he just starts kissing her again, and then we get the real kiss. I know you loved a kiss at the end of the movie between Mitchell Goose and Nikki. It's a slow-mo kiss, dude, and it's
I was just waiting for the credits to roll up too, because I gotta have the credits rolling up as they kiss, but that didn't quite happen. But yeah, everyone's kissing. It feels very summertime, middle school in the 90s vibe, which I really dig. Just that sweet innocence, bringing it back to that time, man. So yeah, this was just like a pleasurable nostalgia for me.
Sweet, dude. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. I need a sequel, though. Like, does Mitchell ever get back to California, man? But I guess we already talked that out. The sequel is Point Break. We already figured it out.
Oh, well, that was a question I had. I was like, does he stay in Cincinnati? Does he go back to Cali? What's your theory? I mean, obviously he goes back to Cali because then he becomes the Bodavista and robs banks with a Reagan mask.
Dude, that is amazing. That is amazing. I love that this probably actually happened like in what the mid 70s, whatever timeline we need to get the Bodavista in 1990 California robbing banks and surfing, man. For sure. Man.
Going back to the actual movie, I mean, that is totally true. Like, that is what is going to happen. But, I don't think he stays. I do think he goes back home. He had this rad 6 months where he became like this local hero, and he, met this girl. But, this whole relationship, like I said, it's a short-lived thing. It's a summer romance. It's all it needs to be. And it doesn't have to be like a sad thing that he goes back, right? He had this awesome time. And then, he met this cool girl, and, I can remember times like that, and you just kind of go back to your normal day-to-day life. And I think the movie is perfect like that. We don't need a wrap up to say what happens next, or did he go back or not. I like that it ends right there with the race. It's cheesy, it's sweet, it's kind of ridiculous. Like, again, the dated 90s hip hop wasn't working for me. The cookie cutter plot or non-plot, it is what it is, but it's all about the vibe, man. Like, the vibe was super chill, really fun, just very, like, again, a pleasurable nostalgia. The natural acting, for the most part, I felt like it was just like this low stakes, just a bunch of kids hanging out, blading, man. All the extreme sports you can fit in a movie.
That's right. And I think it says something, too, that when the credits roll up after this kiss, who's the first name listed? Steve Boyum, second unit director Steve Boyum. He's listed first, and he gets almost a full black screen before they list anybody else. So that dude must have really pulled his weight doing all the shooting for all the stunts in this movie because they made a point to put his name first of all before any of the actors, the writer, the director. I thought that was pretty cool.
Ooh, I've got a second unit director question for you later in our trivia, actually. So,
oh, great.
Nice seg. But before we do that, I wanted to say as well, obviously you can get Airborne while you're gleaming the cube, but can you gleam the cube if you're rollerblading? Or are there different cubes? What is real? I don't know.
I seem to have understood it as really any kind of extreme sport or activity you're doing where you get that moment, you could feel like you could gleam the cube, right? So like even if you're just like running like I am when I'm running, I have a marathon in 4 days. Yeah, I have done 2 in 6 weeks. When I hit like a really good spot and I feel like, yeah, this is perfect. I'm gleaming the cube. So
you've gleamed the cube in your runs. Okay, I see. So you've been there. You can relate. I'm gleaming the cube, sitting in my closet listening to records. I guess that would be the equivalent.
There you go.
Extreme listening, headphones at extreme volume. Well, man, I can't believe this was Shane McDermott's only feature film. I liked him a lot, and I feel like he could have been in a lot more like teen movies like this. He had a lot of charisma. I didn't know he was like a star athlete or whatever. I'm not familiar with his TV work, but man, I wish he was in more movies.
Yeah, it's kind of the bummer. I think what makes him so natural and so relatable is that after this, he said, you know what, like, I'd rather just like live a normal life and like move somewhere, just like middle America and have a family. And he moved to Galveston and he's like a real estate agent. And that was it.
Oh, wow.
He's got 2 kids and he's been married for like 25 years. So that was what he wanted to do. He didn't want to do movies. So respect to that.
Yeah, more power to him for sure.
He doesn't give us anything else to talk about on Filmshake, but
damn you, Shan McDermott. We need more fodder for the Filmshake.
Yes. Oh, but look, hey, we have to do a movie connection. I have one that I might seem dumb, but I think is kind of miraculous. Do you have one?
I've got one too. So let's hear yours.
Okay, so our last movie was Batman Returns. That came out in 1992, the year before Airborne. So that movie cost roughly $80 million to make. It made almost $300 million at the box office. It's an insane film, that's based on a major property. It's just a huge movie, and it's really, we get a lot of superhero movies now, and this is quite different, as we talked about. It's very much different from any other superhero movie, and as I said, I thought it was a masterpiece. I love it, but something that we don't really get too much now is movie studios kind of making a lot of different kinds of movies. So how nuts is it that Warner Brothers produced Batman Returns in 1992, and then in 1993, they produced Airborne with a budget of $2.6 million, which is a much different film from Batman Returns. That's my connection.
That is insane. I didn't realize they were both Warners. All right, well, my movie connection is we're going to go the whole 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon here for this one. So got Danny DeVito in Batman Returns, right? Plays the Penguin. He was also in Mars Attacks with Jack Black. And then Jack Black, of course, is in Airborne. But, the secret here is just use Mars Attacks for whatever connection you want to make, because it's got 50,000 people in that movie. And Gleaming the Cube connection, if you will. So, and I'm going to go into my bra voice here. Batboat goes airborne to take out the Penguin's duckmobile, right?
Yeah,
comes
brah.
out of the tunnel, right, brah? Comes out of the tunnel and immediately comes right down on duckmobile, right? Get this.
Brah.
Slater ramps up the interstate, comes right down on top of the villain and knocks the gun out of his hand with the skateboard. So, his board is his Batboat, brah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there you go. Looking back, I was like, yeah, they both have, these moments where they just immediately jump out of somewhere and land right on the villain, serendipitously.
I think you just gleamed the cube of movie connections.
That was my cube gleamed. All right, let's go on to the trivia battle.
Hold it! Pop quiz, hot shot.
All right. Jordan, so, we talked about trivia and how I was going to make my questions more fair. We're both going to make our questions more fair and things that we could actually possibly know. So I did that, Jordan.
All right. I did the same. I tried to stick with some trivia that I would know. And all my questions today, big shocker here, involve Gleaming the Cube. So I hope you read up your trivia, brah.
I did not. I did not at all.
Oh no.
Oh man.
How about you? What do you have for me? Any specific theme?
Well, actually, mine is just based on Airborne, so it's not like I did anything too much different from that.
Okay.
And a question about actors from Airborne.
Okay, good deal. All right. First question for me. So Gleaming the Cube was also known as what title when it aired on television? Was it A, A Brother's Justice, B, Brian's Song, C, Skate or Die, D, The Skater's Edge, or E, Steaming the Rube?
I'm going to guess Skate or Die.
Close, because that was considered a title, but never used. It was aired on television as A Brother's Justice, which is like the lamest TV title you could have. All right, what do you got for me?
All right. In 1993, Seth Green also starred in what movie co-starring Nick's biggest early 90s crush, Amy Dolenz? Was it A, Bobby Sox, B, Ticks, C, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, D, CB84?
Was it Bobby Sox?
Incorrect.
Oh.
The correct answer was Ticks.
Ticks. Oh, dang. Okay. I've been meaning to watch Ticks ever since we did Mosquito, but I have not gone there yet.
Yeah. I think our good buddy Doug recommended that one to you.
Yes, he did.
And Amy Dolenz was in Step Monster, which we covered in the past as a punishment movie. But
oh, right.
Anything with Amy Dolenz is not a punishment, in my opinion.
No, it's not. And Seth Green, I did not realize he was in Ticks. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. All right. Next question for me, tangential to Gleaming the Cube. So Tony Hawk plays Slater's bud, literally named Buddy. What skate trick is Tony Hawk famous for being the first one to ever complete? Was it A, 500, B, 360, C, 900, D, 360 kickflip, or E, Power Man 5000?
Tonight the Stars Revolt is a great album, but it's not E. Okay, so this reminds me of when I asked you geography questions way back in the day. I mean, come on, skate moves? Are you kidding me?
Come on, man. This is like a big deal in the 90s.
And I played the video game for Dreamcast for like 70 or 80 hours while listening to muting the game and listening to like MXPX and Slick Shoes. So I think it's either 360 or 360 kickflip. I'll just say 360 kickflip.
No, man. It was C, 900.
All right.
Sorry, brah.
Sorry, man. I rollerbladed. Couldn't be a cool skateboarder like you.
That's right. I just, again, these are like things that I would know from the 90s, right?
All right, here we go. My next question. What was Brittany Powell's first film credit? Was it A, Playboy's Girls of Spring Break, B, Airborne, C, Lethal Weapon, D, The Last Starfighter?
Oh, this is probably going to come back to bite me because I haven't seen The Last Starfighter because I've been bitten by that before, but was it Last Starfighter?
Dude, I am not kidding. She played herself in Playboy Girls of Spring Break, 1991.
Oh, snap. Wow. Okay. 2 down for me, 2 down for you. Let's see if one of us can get a question right. I feel like, sorry, my questions are just getting harder and harder from this point on.
One time, Tony Hawk had to use 3 toothpicks to remove something from his teeth. What had he eaten beforehand?
All right, so what is the real name of the skate crew that is heavily featured in Gleaming the Cube? Was it A, Bones Brigade, B, Love Park Locals, C, Trunk Boys, D, Z Boys, or E, chocolate waffle donkey fart.
Did the Z-Boys help on this? Man, I don't know.
I'm sorry.
Whatever A was.
Oh, you got it right.
You serious?
Bones Brigade, man.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Just pure guess. You got it right.
Amazing.
Are you going to win trivia just off of your guess? Wow.
Well, here's my next question. Which movie that Filmshake has already covered starred Chris Conrad? That's, of course, Jack from Airborne.
Oh.
Was it A, The Crow, B, Mortal Kombat, Annihilation, C, Airheads, or D, Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
Oh, man. Was it Annihilation?
Dude, yes, he was Johnny Cage.
Yes. Oh, man. He was so bad. He was so bad in that.
He was in it for like 10 seconds and then he died.
How could I forget? Yes.
Do you think when he signed on to play it, he's like, whoa, Johnny Cage is like the main character, right? And they're like, in the last one where someone else played him. Not so much this one.
Oh, that's terrible. But I'm so glad that I got that right.
You sure did.
All right. So we're even, right?
That's right.
All right. So next question. What famous skater can be seen doing flat ground tricks at the beginning of the end credits of Gleaming the Cube?
What? You gotta be kidding me.
Dude, it's freaking... Yeah, all right. Anyway, I can't tell you the answer, but... I mean, if you were a skater, man, you would know. All right. Anyway, A, Mike McGill. B, Mark Gator Rogowski. C, Rodney Mullen. D, Tony Hawk. Or E, Donk Cephas.
You brought back Donk Cephas.
I brought it back, man. Yes.
Oh, I have no idea, dude. Like, I have no clue. You said C in a weird voice, but I don't know if that was to throw me off. And I was hoping it would be someone whose name I recognized from Tony Hawk Pro Skater. I'm going to guess B.
Mark Gator Rogowski?
Yeah, wait, what was A?
Mike McGill?
Let's say A.
Mike McGill was
Damn
a
it, what was the
stuntman.
right answer? Just tell me what the right answer was.
Mike McGill was a skateboarder stuntman who got sent to the hospital during this movie because he got ran over by one of the motorcycles.
Oh, wow.
But he was not the guy doing the flat ground tricks at the beginning of the end credits. That would have been C, Rodney Mullen.
Oh, so the weird voice was a tell. I second guessed it.
The weird voice was a tell.
I should have listened to Mitchell's advice and been what I was.
Yes, that's right. Just like Popeye.
I've been what I was, and I was what I've been.
Yeah, man. Rodney Mullen just famous for those flat ground tricks. So that was just a dead giveaway.
Oh, so let's keep this longest trivia battle in Filmshake history going. What was Edie McClurg's debut film? Was it A, Carrie, B, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, C, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, D, Curly Sue?
Ooh. I take a wild guess here. Was it Curly Sue?
No! Okay, so she was in all of those movies, but Carrie was the first that she was in.
Oh, dang. Okay. That would have been my next guess.
The best thing of all is, though, I brought Amy Dolenz into this with the first question. She was in Step Monster with Amy Dolenz, too.
Oh, right.
She's the best.
She's awesome. I love Edie McClurg. My last question is, who is Stacy Peralta? This is Gleaming the Cube related, obviously. Is it A, a Z-Boy? B, a documentary filmmaker? C, co-founder of Powell Peralta Board Company? D, second unit director of Gleaming the Cube? Or E, all of the above?
E.
You got it.
Yes.
That was kind of a giveaway for you.
Yeah, because I knew he was second unit director, and I knew he was in Z-Boys, so I've read that. Then the rest had to all be right too. That's right. All right, so I'm kind of pulling for you here. We've never had an all-out tie, so I'm kind of hoping you can get this one.
Oh, okay. I thought we were done. I forgot.
All right. Jack Black starred in one film before Airborne. The 1992 film, A, Bob Roberts, B, The Neverending Story 3, Escape from Fantasia, C, The Player, or D, Wayne's World.
Was it The Player?
Oh, no, man, it was Bob Roberts.
Roberts.
That. I don't know if you've seen it. It's been on my watch list since the late 90s, and I just never got to it. It's like this political satire with Tim Robbins in it, and Jack Black is in it. That's his first movie before Airborne. Yeah, dang.
I've never heard of Bob Roberts.
It's got, like, if you saw the poster for it, I feel like it would at least look familiar to you. So, look, you lost. I wanted us to tie, and it didn't work out. It's all right. Why don't you tell us about what our main movie is going to be next episode?
Our next movie, I wanted to do this so bad instead of, what was it, Batman Returns? I was just going to hijack the episode, and we're going to talk about Barbed Wire from 1996, starring Pamela Anderson Lee, directed by David Hogan. So yeah, this time it's real, my friend. We're getting into this movie that my dad took me to the theater to watch when I was 11 or 10 or whatever. It's crazy. I haven't seen it probably since then. And here's your synopsis. If you don't know about Barbed Wire, it's an action sci-fi starring this busty blonde. It's during the Second American Civil War in 2017, so we were already past the future of this movie. Barbed Wire owns a night, and her name is Barb, last name Wire. So it's not just, we're not talking about fences here. We're talking about a lady and her first and last name. Barbed Wire owns a nightclub called the Hammerhead, and things become complicated when her ex-lover, Axel Hood, who's married to the fugitive Karina Devonshire, re-enters her life. And that doesn't sound as action-packed and sexy as this movie is, but there's a infamous hot tub scene, action scene that we will, inevitably talk about.
Yeah, I remember that from the trailers, obviously.
Did you ever see this?
No, so I never saw it. I remember seeing the trailer for it, and then I remembered also seeing the E! Channel featurette on the film where she talks about the strategically applied bubbles. And I remember her saying strategically applied, and I thought, man, maybe I'd like to see that one scene, but there's no way that I'm going to pay for a ticket to see this. I would be too embarrassed. I can't do it. And I never watched it.
Well, now's your chance.
I'm so excited. Look, I wanted to pick a punishment that would go with this. And I'm thinking, this movie is set in 2017, the future of 2017. And there are a few movies that are set in the future, being 2017. There's one that I remember enjoying when I watched it whenever, I don't know, I was in middle school. And maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't. If you have seen it, maybe I'll wipe this and think of another movie. But have you seen The Running Man, starring Arnie from 1987?
I have not, and that would be a great time to watch this.
Yes.
It's also set in 2017?
It is, dude. Actually, well, so it's set in 2019, but the fall of civilization happens in 2017. So this is happening 2 years after, like, basically the apocalypse of 2017.
Okay. Yeah, because I think the most that I know about The Running Man is having listened to the Good Times, Great Movies podcast about The Running Man, and then also working with a lady who was like, oh, The Running Man, I tried to watch that movie and it was terrible. Don't ever watch that movie. So now I'm going to watch it.
It's been so long. I'm going to watch it again. It's just been
nice.
so long. I'm going to watch it too.
Sweet. This does not feel like a punishment. So thank you. I gave you Gleaming the Cube, 5-star movie. I expect nothing less from Running Man from 1987.
Yeah, why not? Why not? I feel like some listeners are like, stop doing stupid movies for the punishment. At least do something I'd want to watch. And then other people are like, damn it, Running Man. Like, pick something bad.
Right, like you punished him with Running Man? Like, that's easy. But I am looking at a still from this movie where this guy is covered in like a clear plastic suit with Christmas, like seemingly Christmas lights like covering his body. So, I mean, there is
someone
that.
you work with did tell you that it was terrible, so there's that.
That's right. They told me never to watch this. So.
Never watch it.
That's a surefire way that I'm going to watch it, obviously.
Incredible.
Awesome.
Incredible.
Awesome.
Well, Jordan, I got to tell you, I'm bummed that this is over, man. I really dug talking about Airborne for longer than the length of Airborne. That was fun.
That's right. We're keeping it alive. by extending its runtime. Oh, man.
I wish we could talk about it more, but I guess we should wrap up now. I'm
Yes,
going to go cry for a little while after this.
Yes, it was a good time. Definitely felt airborne making this podcast today. So, yes, hope our listeners have gleaned the cube through this episode and gone airborne. And just remember your safety gear while you're out there on the mean streets of Cincinnati. But yes, thank you guys for listening. Thank you to all our patrons for supporting us. If you want to support us, if you want to get some bonus content and just send us, a couple of bucks our way to help us keep the show going, check us out at patreon.com/filmshake.
Oh, Patreon! I know how to make this episode last longer. Hey, okay. And this is my fault too, because you've mentioned multiple times, like, hey, when are we going to give shout outs? Hey, we did all the 8 patrons that locked out the request tier at $5, but you know what? Let's talk about our other 3 patrons really quick. Special thanks to David Lodi, Adrian Morgan, and Jackson Boren. Thank you guys for supporting us. We're very, very appreciative to all of our patrons. So shout out to y'all. Y'all are great. We love you.
Yes, and a final shout out to Charlie for picking Airborne and being our patron. Thank you, man.
Thanks, brah.
Thanks, brah. That's right. Let's go out with that. All right. We'll catch you next time for more Filmshake.
Take it easy.
All right, give it to me.